One of the reasons it's good to go through the Bible verse by verse, and I do both in our church preaching, topical and textual. In the new year, it'll be mostly textual right through books of the Bible. This past year, the present year, has been many topical themes, especially along the ideas of seasons and rhythms of life. And we've been through many scriptures and we've seen a wide variety of scriptures. So that's one good thing about topical preaching is you can get samplings of different genres in different places in God's word and how God really is the same, book to book, era to era, age to age. But one of the beautiful things about going through verse by verse, like we're doing with Psalms, is we can't skip anything. And so it kind of boxes me in to say what God said and not to skip and pick and choose my favorite parts, right? In fact, especially going, just chapter by chapter, I'm now locked into, okay, we finished Psalm 16, on to Psalm 17, and not even really knowing what's ahead for us, begin to study out Psalm 17. And so that's where we find ourselves today. We pick up in chapter 17 of the book of Psalms. And today we're just going to set the ground, lay the groundwork, lay the foundation for the next week or two. And we're going to work through this psalm together. Psalm 17, the title is A Prayer of David. And there are only really a handful of psalms, 5 psalms, that the title calls a prayer. Now, many of the psalms are prayers, but for whatever reason, the title of prayer only found its way into 5 of the psalms. 3 of them, I believe, are written by David. And maybe the idea of a prayer in the title had to do with a certain melody that they put it to. We don't know for sure, but this is identified as a prayer. The other thing that's very evident in this psalm is the sense of danger. Okay, that wasn't so evident in chapter 16, in Psalm 16. There might be some hints at danger or idolatry or, bad crowd of people in chapter 16, but you get the idea in chapter 16 that things are in a good place circumstantially for David. At least his experience and his awareness is focused on the good things. Well, in chapter 17, we have a prayer or an intercession for really intervention. And you're going to see 3 things, 3 sections of the psalm. David first prays, examine me, like put me to the test. And he's pleading his cause with God. Now, it's important that you understand he's pleading his cause in as it relates to a very specific situation. So, probably the situation with Saul, where he's being slandered and falsely accused, and where his motives are being called into question, and now his life is in danger because Saul wants to kill him. He's not pleading his own righteousness to God in terms of his comprehensive sense of himself. David knows he's sinful, okay? But in these situations, in these circumstances, David is in the right, okay? So he's not guilty of what Saul is accusing him of. He is being unjustly pursued and threatened. So his first prayer is for vindication, examine me. And these 3, the breakdown that I'm describing to you are as they're portrayed by Warren Wiersbe in his commentary on the Psalms. The second section, that's verses 1 through 5. The second section begins in verse 6. And the general sense of that section is keep me, care for me, preserve me, intervene, take care of me, keep me safe. And that goes down to about verse 12. And then the third section begins in about verse 13, where David's tone of prayer or the sense of his prayer is rescue me. So the flow of this psalm is examine me, which is an honest prayer, keep me, which is a dependent prayer, and then rescue me, which is a desperate prayer, right? So let's go to verse 1. And for today, I just want to read this together, okay? So maybe track along with me if you have a Bible close by. A prayer of David. Hear the right, O Lord. Attend unto my cry. Give ear unto my prayer, that goeth not out of feigned lips. Let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let thine eyes behold the things that are equal. Thou hast proved mine heart. Thou hast visited me in the night. Thou hast tried me and shalt find nothing. I am purposed that my mouth shall not transgress. I was also struck in reading this how much David is concerned with his speech, his lips, the words of his mouth. Over and over, the psalm speaks to this. So he says, I am purposed that my mouth shall not transgress. Concerning the works of men, by the word of thy lips I have kept me from the paths of the destroyer. Hold up my goings in thy paths, that my footsteps slip not. I have called upon thee, for thou wilt hear me, O God. Incline thine ear unto me, and hear my speech. Show thy marvelous loving kindness, O thou that savest by thy right hand them which put their trust in thee, from those that rise up against them. Keep me as the apple of the eye. Hide me under the shadow of thy wings, from the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. They are enclosed in their own fat. With their mouth they speak proudly. They have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes, bowing down to the earth, like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, from men which are thy hand. O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. There's a lot of twists and turns in this psalm. There's a lot of interesting phrasing in this psalm. This is going to be a fun one to unpack. For instance, what does it mean to be enclosed in their own fat? On and on I could go. What does it mean when David says, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, from men which are thy hand? Now that's really an interesting concept. Sounds like a conflict there. From men which have their portion in this life, whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. That's an interesting phrase. So David is praying a prayer. God, examine me. God, I haven't sinned with my mouth. I've protected the words of my mouth. God, keep me, protect me. And God, rescue me, deliver me. I'll leave you with this thought today, and we'll close out this beginning of the week. David is a man who, when he's in trouble, he knows what to do. I don't know about you, but for me, the first thing I do when I'm in trouble is worry. And maybe David did too, but David developed over the years somehow a reflex to go to God in prayer and to cry out for God. Think about the cries of David that we've heard recently. Teach me. Or Moses, so teach us to number our days. Preserve me, O God. Remember the psalm, help, Lord. David knows how to cry out to God. And I don't know where you are or how these circumstances find you today in this week. Mid-September already, here we are. Maybe you've got problems you don't know what to do with, or situations you can't resolve or solve. Really, truthfully, biblically, wonderfully, the best thing you can do is look up and cry out. Bring your prayer to God. And maybe your first prayer should be, examine me, Lord. Show me if I'm wrong. And then maybe a second prayer should be, preserve me, Lord. Take care of me. Walk me through this. Guide me, teach me, preserve me through this circumstance. And maybe you could wrap up your prayer with, rescue me. Get me out. Our first prayer sometimes is, get me out of this. And sometimes our first prayer needs to be, examine me through this and lead me through this and teach me through this. And in time, God will get you out too. Well, happy Monday, friends. I'm looking forward to a great week with you. Until tomorrow, have a great day.